Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 2025 Ordinary Council meeting. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past and present. I would like to advise everyone that the audio and video of this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. I request everyone to please turn off your mobile phones. I remind you that any recording of the meeting proceedings and photography within the chamber is prohibited unless prior approval has been granted. And councillors and city officers are reminded to disclose any declarations of financial interests and interests affecting impartiality, and are requested to activate their microphones when addressing the meeting. So, with that, we turn to item 1, which is the declaration of opening. Welcome everyone. I declare this meeting open at 1 minute past 6 p.m. Item 2 is a disclaimer. The City of South Perth disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Item 3 is announcements from the presiding member, that's me. I was sorry to hear of and share the news of the passing of former Mayor and Freeman of the City, John Hardwick, OAM, on the 9th of November. John served as a councillor for Manning Ward from 1990 to 1995, before being elected Mayor of our city in 1995. His service to our community extended well beyond his time on council, and his immense contribution to our city was justly recognised by John being honoured as a Freeman of the City in 2010 and by the award of John's OAM in 2015 for his service to the community of South Perth and to local government. John was a very much loved member of our community who led by example and who lived a faithful life full of love and service. He'll be greatly missed by all who knew him. On behalf of the city, we extend our heartfelt condolences and sympathies to the Hardwick family. Councillors, I'd also like to formally welcome Ms Bree Websdale as our Director of Corporate Services. Ms Websdale commenced on the 10th of November, and I'm sure we're all very much looking forward to working with her. Welcome to you, Ms Websdale. And councillors, tonight is the final council meeting for our Acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr Matthew Scott, as Matthew Scott will finish with the city on the 1st of December. Mr Scott was appointed as our Acting Chief Executive Officer in July of 2025, and I'm sure we've all been very grateful for Mr Scott's leadership and experience during this interim period. We wish him the very best in his exciting new role. And councillors, will you please all join me in thanking Acting CEO Matthew Scott for his service to our city. Okay, it's now the stage of the evening for the presiding member's report. So, as most of you know by now, at this stage I'm obliged to present this month's mayoral report. I have been receiving more than a few questions from members of our community as to why I'm obliged to present this report each month. So for those who might not know, Council passed a meeting at the October 2024 Ordinary Council meeting, and that motion resolved that at each Ordinary Council meeting I must present a report of the mayoral engagements and meetings attended by me in my capacity as Mayor since the last Council meeting. And the reasons given in support of that motion stated that, open quote, this practice is considered essential for maintaining transparency, fairness and accountability, allowing both councillors and the community to be fully informed of the Mayor's activities and enabling them to participate more effectively in council deliberations, close quote. So the first part of the report that I'm required to present is a summary of the events attended and persons met with by me in my capacity as Mayor since the last council meeting. Councillors, the last council meeting was held on Tuesday the 28th of October, so in accordance with council's resolution I'll begin from Wednesday the 29th of October. And on that day, I attended Penrose College for a Q&A session with Penrose students about the role of local government within the 3 levels of government within Australia. I must confess, I always do enjoy the opportunity to visit and engage with our local schools and students, so I'd like to thank Penrose College for inviting me. On Friday, the 31st of October, I met with the State Member for Churchlands and the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Basil Zemplis, MLA, to discuss a range of issues affecting our district. And on the same day, I also attended the Pagoda restaurant in Como for the Lions Hall of Fame dinner. For the last few years, Lions have asked me to help with the judging of nominees for the Western Australian Lions Hall of Fame. It's a privilege to play a small role with such a wonderful community organisation who do so much, not just for people living in the city of South Perth, but for people all over the world. On Saturday, the 1st of November, I attended and spoke at the launch of the Mateship and War Stories from South Perth exhibition at the South Perth Historical Society, which is also commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Councillors, some of you are already aware of this, but for those who aren't, it may interest you to learn that this amazing exhibition has been curated by one of our local students, 13-year-old Oliver Newman, who incidentally was the winner of the overall Philip Pendle Prize for 2025. The exhibition is available for viewing until the 4th of January next year. Entry is free and it's well worth a visit. On Monday the 3rd of November, I visited local business To Pizza on Canning Highway in Como. To Pizza are the new owners of the iconic Heroes Pizza brand. To Pizza have developed an innovative automated pizza topping machine which provides excellent order accuracy and lower pizza production costs. I had the opportunity to watch the machine in action, and it's really wonderful to see these new technologies being pioneered right here in the city of South Perth. Also on Monday the 3rd of November, Acting CEO Matthew Scott and I met with the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Hannah Beasley MLA at Dumas House in West Perth. We talked about a range of issues, including governance, forthcoming reforms for the local government sector, and potential future reforms. Also on Monday the 3rd of November, I met with Acting CEO Matthew Scott and the city's communications team. Most of you now know that I meet with the city's communication team once per week to discuss current and upcoming communications by the city, potential third-party media relevant to the city, and my duties as spokesperson for the city. And in an effort to try and reduce the length of this report, I'll also note that I met with the city's communication team on the 10th of November and 17th of November for the same purpose. On Tuesday, the 4th of November, I met with Acting CEO Matthew Scott. As you know, I meet with the CEO or Acting CEO at least once a week to discuss the local government's affairs and the performance of its functions, in line with Section 2.8 of the Local Government Act, and once again trying to reduce the length of this report. I also met with Mr Scott on the 11th of November and today for the same purpose. On Wednesday the 5th of November, I caught up with Patrick Hall, the Mayor of the City of Canning, at local cafe Little Mason in South Perth. I think I've mentioned in previous reports that I do try and catch up with mayors of neighbouring local governments or local governments that the city shares strategic interests with every so often. And also on Wednesday the 5th of November, I met with Councillor Kathy Lees at local business The Hangout on Preston in Como, once again to discuss city affairs. On Saturday the 8th of November, my family and I attended the inaugural Como Country Fair at Como Reserve in Como. The country fair was presented by the Como town teams and supported by a $15,000 grant from the City of South Perth, and was a rather lovely celebration of our city's country-themed origins, as well as being a fun and entertaining showcase for many of our wonderful local businesses. Also on Saturday the 8th of November, my family and I attended a production of Monopoly, the unauthorised musical, at the Old Mill Theatre, which was tremendously entertaining for both young and, let's go with middle-aged, alike. Well done to everyone at the Old Mill Theatre for putting on such a wonderful production. On Sunday, the 9th of November, I helped welcome a record-breaking 700 walkers, volunteers and Alzheimer's WA staff for the Walk to Remember on the South Perth foreshore. The Walk to Remember has been running since 2012 and has raised over $300,000 for the approximately 48,000 Western Australians living with various types of dementia. The Walk to Remember continues to raise essential funds to support people living with dementia, enabling Alzheimer's WA to continue providing specialised care and services to the WA community. And it is a pleasure to have the city host the Walk to Remember and to see how it's growing every year. On Monday, the 10th of November, I attended the city's quarterly Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting. Those minutes are available on the city's website, so I'll simply say that I'm very pleased to note that the OAG has once again issued an Office of the Auditor General, OAG, has once again issued an unqualified opinion with no adverse findings in the Independent Auditor's report. This is the 7th year in a row that the city's external audit has been conducted by the WA Auditor General, and it's clear that the city's financial position has improved dramatically over that period, particularly over the last 5 years. I think our community can draw a lot of confidence from the 2024/25 financial statements and the Officer of the Auditor General's report. On Tuesday, the 11th of November, the Victoria Park and South Perth RSL sub-branch and the City of South Perth hosted a Remembrance Day service at the city's Memorial Gardens. I had the honour of laying a wreath on behalf of the city to symbolise our community remembering and commemorating the sacrifices made by those Australians who have served in conflict. And I would like to thank all the members of our community who attended the Remembrance Day memorial service. Also on Tuesday, the 11th of November, I served as presiding member at the November Council agenda briefing. On Wednesday, the 12th of November, I attended an informal get-together for incoming CEO Liz Ledger with elected members at the Councillors' Lounge right here at the South Perth Civic Centre. And on Thursday, the 13th of November, I attended the 2026 Australian of the Year Awards presentation at Government House. On Friday, the 14th of November, I attended the official opening of the Kwinana Energy Recovery Facility, surprisingly enough in Kwinana. I also attended the Lions Club of South Perth's 60th anniversary dinner at the Mount Henry Tavern before attending the Royal Perth Golf Club charity dinner at the Royal Perth Golf Club. I do always enjoy the opportunity to engage with our wonderful sporting clubs and community organisations, and I thank the Lions Club of South Perth and the Royal Perth Golf Club for their invitations. On Saturday, the 15th of November, Deputy Mayor Andre Brenderer-Brandis and I attended McDonald's Karrawara at Village Green to help out with McHappy Day. The Deputy Mayor spent a good portion of the day making burgers alongside the friendly McDonald's staff, whereas I was working the McCafe station for anyone that might have got some drive-through on Saturday. We did our best. McHappy Day is the largest annual fundraiser for Ronald McDonald House Charities Australia, raising much-needed funds to help seriously ill or injured children and their families stay together and close to the care they need, whilst undergoing treatment or surgery in hospital. So a big thank you to everyone who participated in McHappy Day 2025. Also on Sunday, the 15th of November, I attended and spoke at the Manning Tennis Club's 70th anniversary celebration at the Pagoda Hotel in Como. I will take this opportunity to thank the Manning Tennis Club for their kind invitation and congratulate them on an outstanding 70 years. On Sunday, the 16th of November, my family and I attended the South Perth Seroptimists Giant Spring Fair at South Perth Primary School. It was really great to see so many members of our community coming out on what was a beautiful Sunday morning. Well done to everyone involved. On Monday, the 17th of November, I met with our local State Member of Parliament, Mr Jeff Baker, at local business Mecca Gourmet in Village Green. As most of you know by now, Mr Baker and I meet at least once a month to discuss issues of importance for our local community and what options are available at both the state government level and the local government level to make our district a better place for everyone to live, work and play. And also on Monday, the 17th of November, I attended the AGM for the South Perth Historical Society. As some of you know, I serve as the patron of the society. And that brings us up to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. That's the first part of the mayoral report. The second part of the mayoral report, Council's resolution, requires me to present an overview of the key issues, initiatives and matters that I've been addressing in my capacity as mayor since the last council meeting. And the main issue that I've been considering and addressing since the last council meeting is how elected members can work better with each other and with the city administration to deliver on our community's priorities. And that is the end of this month's mayoral report. So, thank you for your patience. That brings us to item 4, which is attendance. Item 4.1 is apologies. I haven't received any apologies for tonight. Item 4.2 is approved leaves of absence. Councillor Blake D'Souza has an approved leave of absence for the period of 10 November 2025 to 19 November 2025 inclusive, and Councillor Bronwyn Moore has an approved leave of absence for the period of 10 November 2025 to 24 November 2025 inclusive. That takes us to item 5, which is declarations of interest. Mayor Greg Milner, that's me. I've declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1 as I know a number of the nominees, and Councillor Stephen Russell has also declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1 as a person on the candidate list is known to me. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillors, does anyone else have any declarations of interest that they wish to make this evening? Councillor Prendeville.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Similarly, for item 10.1.1, an impartiality interest as a person and a group are known to me from that list.
Thank you, Councillor Prendeville. Any other declarations of interest, folks? That's a no. Okay. In that case, we'll move on to item 6, which is public question time. Item 6.1 is responses to previous public questions taken on notice. That's nil for this evening. Item 6.2 is public question time itself. So I'll now open public question time at 17 minutes past 6 p.m. We haven't received any written submissions prior to tonight's meeting. I will just check with governance to see if there's anything in the tray. No, there's not. Okay. Well, in that case, I guess I close public question time at 6:18 p.m. Item 7 is confirmation of minutes and notes. Item 7.1 is minutes. Item 7.1.1 is the ordinary council meeting held on 28 October 2025. So I'm about to look for a mover and a seconder to move a motion that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 28 October 2025 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Councillor Brenda Abrandis to move, thank you. Councillor Prendeville to second, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No, okay, then I'll simply declare that carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is notes of briefing, and once again I'll look for a mover and a seconder to move that council notes the following council briefings and workshops were held. That's 7.2.1 concept briefings and workshops, and 7.2.2 council agenda briefing dated 11 November 2025. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis to move and Councillor Lees to second. Thank you both. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No. Okay, then I declare that carried unanimously. We move on to item 8, which is presentations. Item 8.1 is petitions. That's nil for this evening. Item 8.2 is gifts or awards presented to council. That's nil for this evening. And item 3 is deputations. No deputations were heard at the council agenda briefing held on 11 November 2025. Item 9 is method of dealing with agenda business, and I'll now seek confirmation from the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr Matthew Scott, that all the report items contained in tonight's agenda were discussed at the November council agenda briefing. Mr Scott?
Yes, they were.
Thank you very much, Mr Scott. So, with the exception of those items to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, reports will be adopted by exception resolution. And by this, I mean the officer recommendation will be adopted as is, without discussion or amendment. So, councillors, would anyone like to withdraw any items for discussion tonight? Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to withdraw item 10.4.3.
All right, so item 10.4.3, entitled Response to Notice of Motion, Councillor Bronwyn Moore, Development of a Volunteer Code of Conduct, has been withdrawn for discussion this evening. Councillors, any other items to be withdrawn for discussion this evening? No. Okay. In that case, I'll now call for a mover and a seconder to carry the following items by exception resolution. Those items are item 10.1.1, City of South Perth 2026 Aspire Community Citizen of the Year Awards, Nominations, Assessment and Recommendations. Item 10.3.1, Payment in lieu of parking plan, revisions to reasonable estimate of costs. Item 10.4.1, listing of payments, October 2025. And item 10.4.2, monthly financial statements, October 2025. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Someone to second? Councillor Raison, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No. Okay. In that case, those items have just been passed by exception resolution in accordance with clause 5.5 of the City of South Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2007, and the officers' recommendations have been accepted by council. We'll now be moving on to the one and only report identified to be withdrawn for discussion this evening. That's item 10.4.3, Response to Notice of Motion, Councillor Bronwyn Moore, Development of a Volunteer Code of Conduct. There's an officer recommendation before us. I haven't received any amended or alternative motions. Would someone like to move the officer recommendation? Councillor Howling to move. Anyone to second? There is no seconder. The motion has lapsed. Oh, did you want to second it, Councillor Prendeville?
Sorry. Just a process query. If it does lapse, what does that mean?
Mr. Scott, should I direct that one your way?
Yep. So if the motion is to lapse, then basically the Volunteer Code of Conduct won't be noted by council, and basically the Volunteer Code of Conduct will be, the Code of Conduct for volunteers will be part of the Employee Code of Conduct as it presently exists.
All right, I'll give one more opportunity if someone wants to second it. Going, Councillor Prendeville to second. Okay. Councillor Howling, the floor is yours.
I was very pleased to read quite a large number of local governments have adopted a volunteer code of conduct, but it's not expressly always described as a volunteer code of conduct. And I take, for example, and I've got available for anybody who would wish to look, the Volunteer Handbook of the City of Perth. And if one looks through the Volunteer Handbook, you see a lot more than what is just described as a code of conduct. It includes matters such as induction, how volunteers are to be treated, but it also includes the expectation of volunteers. It's an excellent read, and I commend a similar booklet to this council for adoption. Volunteers are the backbone of our community. They provide an invaluable service. Their role is somewhat different, save and except for one vital area, and that is volunteers are recognised as falling within the work, health and safety legislation. But that doesn't mean that they ought not to properly be included within the Volunteer Code of Conduct or within a volunteer handbook, describing matters such as their insurance, describing matters such as the expectations, giving them a proper induction and making them feel part of our community separate from what the employees feel. Now, when it was put forward, it was said that it may lead to confusion if we have it all combined within the Employees Code of Conduct, and it recognised the unique contribution, that is the contribution or the mover of the motion, Deputy Bronwyn Moore at that time, said that it recognises the unique contribution of volunteers in our community. Further, the Department of Local Government has expressly and explicitly recommended that there be adopted a code of conduct for volunteers by local governments. That is the reason why at least 7 local governments within the metropolitan area have expressly adopted a standalone volunteer code of conduct. Now, at that meeting, the position was put against the adoption of a separate code of conduct. And the position that was then put was that we should just stick with the existing one code, which is for both volunteers as well as for employees. And at the meeting that it was discussed and passed, it was put and argued and discussed in detail as to whether or not it would cause duplication, as was put by Mr Scott and as put by Councillor Andre Brendabrandis. It would add no value. If anything, it would be an unnecessary burden to administration. It would create additional work. And the Mayor also at that meeting said it wasn't a good use of staff's time and it would not add anything additional, and it would in fact divert staff away from undertaking other resources, and would not, he was not aware of any significant issues, or Mr Scott said that he wasn't aware of any significant issues with the present state of combining the 2 documents into one, employees code of conduct and volunteer code of conduct. Now, if one reflects a little on the agenda briefing, it was remarkable that the similar types of questions were asked, as were expressly stated at that meeting where this was adopted, by 6 councillors to 2. And I say that that's important because the reason for why the local government was to consider and adopt a code of conduct was expressly set out at that meeting. And yet the same arguments that was raised by the councillors were again seemingly at least asked at the meeting. In other words, what I'm saying concretely is that the discussion as to why we needed a code of conduct was had at that meeting. A code of conduct for volunteers was had at that meeting. It was discussed, and it's simply consistent with good governance to adopt decisions which are consistent. And just because we've got new councillors doesn't mean that we have to change course or change tack. A code of conduct for volunteers, setting out their expectations, setting out what it is that we say that they could make by way of a contribution to our community, and how we look after them, as well as how we cause their induction, and how we make it clear that they're not of the same person, or they're not the same, treated the same way as employees, is, at least in my view, an important recognition for volunteers. And it's an important...
Councillor Howling, that's 5 minutes. I'll move a motion that you be granted a further 5 minutes. Would anyone second that motion? Councillor Prendeville. Councillors, I'll put a motion that Councillor Howling be granted a further 5 minutes to the vote. Please cast your votes. I think we're waiting on one more vote. And that was unanimous. Please continue, Councillor Howling. You have a further 5 minutes.
Thank you. And so it simply is the position that this local government, or at least the city, in deciding to ask for a draft of the Code of Conduct, has now been at least presented with a Code of Conduct. I say well done to the administration, notwithstanding the arguments that they had raised previously against it. It's consistent with the way within which a lot of local governments in Western Australia have separately, properly and fully recognised the important role of volunteers in this community by including their work within a separate booklet. I say that it needs to go even further, and that we need to continue to care for our volunteers in a separate and distinct manner from the way within which the employees are looked after, and that we take a leaf out of the book of that local government which is just across the river, who has done some excellent work in the volunteer handbook, that we look at this a little bit more broadly and not expose the same arguments as were put forward on the last occasion. It's not necessary, it's additional work, it's not a good use of staff's time, it would cost too much money, and it costs funds to develop what a number of other local governments have already done. If we don't do it now, then I say that over the next 5 years, we will probably be likely to start to fall into line in any event and follow what the Department for Local Government has already said, and that is that each local government probably ought to properly adopt its own volunteer code of conduct. And I wish to finish where I started. The volunteers are the backbone of our community. Recognising their invaluable work within our community by a separate volunteer handbook, which includes their induction, includes their insurance, and includes their expectations holistically, not hitting them over the head with a this is what your duties are and this is what you have to do and these are your responsibilities, but welcoming their involvement within the City of South Perth through a holistic booklet is the way to go. And for that reason, I commend the officer's recommendation to this council.
Thank you, Councillor Howling. Councillor Prendeville, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be brief. A volunteer code of conduct, as we know, sets clear expectations and promotes respectful, safe, consistent behaviour across all of their activities. And I think clarifying these contributions, responsibilities, standards and boundaries is important for the community. I do believe there are differences between volunteers and employees, and that's enough to have two codes. I don't really, I suppose I'm not swayed by any additional burden that this creates. I think on the, if you look at it holistically, I don't think that's a reason not to do this. I think it elevates our gratitude of volunteers and hopefully solidifies the importance that we place on them, adding an extra layer of looking after our volunteers, which I think is important. So I'm happy to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prendeville. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak against the officer recommendation? Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I wish to speak against this item because I find it not an example of good government. As Councillor Howelling has touched on, the WHS Act, under the WHS Act, volunteers are explicitly defined as a worker. The responsibility for the primary duty for workers and therefore volunteers is with a person conducting a business or undertaking, which in this case is the CEO. The Local Government Act is silent with respect to volunteers, but noting the WHS treatment of volunteers, then in my view it is very appropriate and very reasonable to extend the same CEO responsibilities to that of treating volunteers as employees, either fully, in part, or not at all when it comes to a code of conduct. Hence, in my view, a volunteer code of conduct is wholly the responsibility of the CEO, acting on behalf of the executive, and not of the council acting on behalf of the legislative. I therefore find this item infringing on the separation of powers between the legislative and executive branches of local government, and therefore not reflective of good government. I simply cannot understand why this has come before council, even if we're noting, and on this basis I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak in favour of the item before us? Councillor Raison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First, I'd like to extend my thanks to all the volunteers who share their time and expertise to make South Perth a better place to live, work and play. This matter was put in train before I joined the council, and I'm speaking in favour of the motion as a matter of good governance, so that the matter can proceed in a timely way. I've taken the same approach in relation to other matters that were generated by prior councillors elected by our community. There is a proud tradition of volunteering in South Perth, and how we support and encourage our volunteers is important. Having said that, going forward, my focus will be on Council driving delivery of the strategic plan developed by our community and addressing issues of broad community concern. I'd like to see matters brought before Council in a coordinated way rather than an ad hoc way. A clear annual Council work plan that includes our compliance obligations, the Mayor being freed up to drive lobbying with the state and federal government. There's a number of matters that I think can be done differently, and although I am voting, plan to vote in support of this item, I do hope that we can look at ways to work together more efficiently and more effectively going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Raison. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak against the item before us? Councillor Brenda Brandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The existing code of conduct that we have in place covers all parties who actually engage with the city and provide services to the city. I have reviewed the city's existing employee code of conduct, also incorporating volunteers, contractors and agency staff in August, and I found this code to be extensive. It clearly articulates the requirements to perform the services to the city, and it comprehensively covers all the aspects of what a code of conduct should consider. I do not consider anything material has been omitted from this document, and I found it to be more detailed than even large state government agencies. It is aligned in principle to State Department Code of Conducts, and that includes engaging a workforce, whether they be paid or unpaid. And this ensures equity, transparency, fairness, and consistency in addressing conduct and behaviours. The city's code of conduct also articulates the city's relationship and behaviours as an employer towards any part of the workforce. The city considers operational or role-specific responsibilities that are better addressed through tailored arrangements, role descriptions, and include materials as embedding them in the conduct document as separate volunteer codes of conduct reduce the flexibility, which create unnecessary complexity and also encroach on the day-to-day operational activities. Maintaining a single code of conduct supports fairness, consistency and transparency in managing conduct matters. It reinforces community confidence that all people representing the city, whether paid or voluntarily, are engaged in the same high ethical and behavioural standards and are treated equally. One combined code of conduct treats all providers of services to the city with equity, whether they be employee, a contractor or a volunteer. Volunteer-specific code of conducts exist, but these are largely consistent with employee codes where there are different enforcement mechanisms that are necessary. Having a look at the Work Health and Safety Act, the existing code of conduct does cover this off sufficiently. It includes that volunteers of a person conducting a business or undertaking have duties as workers to take reasonable care for their own mental and physical health and safety. Volunteers engaged by the city are regarded as workers and share the same health and safety obligations as employees. In reviewing some state government department codes of conduct, and I will reference three, the Department of Education, which is a substantial state government employer, their code of conduct applies to all employees and department representatives, including all contractors, school council and board members, university and TAFE students undertaking practicum placement and volunteers. The WA Police, the Code of Conduct applies to all employees regardless of rank or position, including employees who are permanent consultants, volunteers, casual contractors, or any other group or individual who is engaged with the WA Police Force. The Department of Health. Again, it applies equally to volunteers, students, and other persons engaged in undertaking work within the WA health system under their code of conduct. So what I'm referring to here is if the largest state government departments find it quite an easy process to have one code of conduct to cover their entire workforce, including boards and executives and volunteers, because they treat them equally and they apply the same principles, I find it very appropriate that we should be doing the same. And all credit to the administration. The current code of conduct is quite substantial when I compared and contrasted it to quite a few of the government departments. Our code of conduct covers a substantial amount of ground: bullying, discrimination, harassment, work health safety, respect, drugs, alcohol, misconduct.
Councillor Brenda Brandis, that's 5 minutes. I'll move a motion that you be granted a further 5 minutes to speak. Would someone please second that motion? Councillor Raison, thank you. Councillors, please cast your votes on a motion that Councillor Brenda Brandis be granted a further 5 minutes to speak. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Please continue, Councillor Brenda Brandis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council. Misconduct, fraud and corruption, conflicts of interest, the use of finances, the use of city assets, financial responsibility, intellectual property, and it goes on. In fact, it's actually quite a lot more substantial than some of the state government departments, as I've mentioned. So, on reflection tonight, I don't see that we needed to undertake any change with regard to try to separate out volunteers and have a separate code of conduct when we had a perfectly good code of conduct of which we haven't had any adverse impacts. Volunteers, employees, contractors, they're all a backbone in providing services to the city. They should all be treated equally, and we should all be considering the services for any of our providers in the same manner. I see it good governance in having one policy that is robust, that is detailed, and that has worked. It has been tried and tested, and it was unnecessary to try to separate out volunteers. I asked the question, if we were to separate volunteers, would we be separating other providers for the city as well? So for these reasons tonight, councillors, I don't consider we need to note an alternative, a separate volunteer code of conduct, because what we have is substantial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Brandis. Councillors, is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who would like to speak either for or against the item before us? Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will be speaking against the new code of conduct, or proposed code of conduct. So firstly, I would like to say that I absolutely recognise the massive contribution and value of volunteers to our community and our environment, and the city's responsibility in welcoming and safeguarding them. I've had a look at the city's current code of conduct that covers employees, contractors and volunteers, and it looks to be very comprehensive to me. I'm not aware of any specific concerns or issues that have led to the request for a separate code of conduct for volunteers. I'm also not convinced by the argument that, as it has been considered by council earlier this year, that new councillors should now not consider the issues as to whether a separate code is warranted or not. So a unified code that applies to employees, contractors and volunteers promotes consistency, reinforces shared values and simplifies communications. It ensures that all individuals are held to the same standard of behaviour, fostering a cohesive and inclusive culture. I'm not convinced by the argument that because 7 or so other councils have a separate code that it is warranted in this instance. My understanding is that the draft is essentially a repeat of the relevant sections of the current unified code, and I am concerned that creating a separate code risks confusion and could lead to inconsistencies. So on that basis, in the absence of specific issues with the current code, and at the risk of adding another document to the long list of city documents, I'm happy for the existing situation to be maintained.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. I think I'm the only elected member who hasn't spoken yet, so I'll say my 2 cents. I absolutely agree, councillors, with the statement that volunteers are the backbone of our community. I agree that they make an immense contribution to our community in many, many, many different ways. And I agree that the city should absolutely welcome, acknowledge, celebrate and care for our volunteers. I'm in full-throated agreement with all of those statements, and I think we all are, really. But that's not the issue before us. The issue before us is whether we should note and, in effect, adopt a new volunteer code of conduct that has no substantive differences to the existing employee code of conduct, which currently applies to volunteers as well. Last week, an elected member, I think it might have been Councillor Lees, asked a very good and a very relevant question. That question asked, what are the differences between the employee code of conduct and the proposed volunteer code of conduct before us now? And Mr. Scott's response was, there is no substantive difference between the 2 codes of conduct. Well, councillors, that's game, set and match for me. I don't see the point of having 2 codes of conduct that say the same thing. It's a little bit like red tape for the sake of red tape. I agree with what Councillor Russell, Councillor Brenda Abrandis and Councillor Lees have already said. I won't repeat those points. I'll simply say that I'm voting against this item because there's no reason to proceed with the separate volunteer code of conduct. The motion before us doesn't achieve anything that isn't already being achieved. That's me. Everyone's spoken. Councillor Howling, you have 5 minutes to rebut any arguments made during debate if you would like to do so. Councillor Lees.
Sorry, could I just ask a question?
Please, yes.
The recommendation says that council notes the volunteer code of conduct. Does that mean adopts the volunteer code of conduct, or?
Mr. Scott.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean adopt. It means it notes the code of conduct, which the administration would then apply similarly to the employee code of conduct, which actually isn't adopted by council. It's a requirement of the CEO to have one.
Thank you.
And that's probably my fault. I should have been clearer when I said that if we noted this, my understanding was the admin would then adopt it and apply it administratively. That's my bad. Thank you for clarifying that, Councillor Lees. Any other questions before I turn over to Councillor Howling? No. Councillor Howling, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to just address some of the discussion points. Councillor Russell suggested that this wasn't a good example of good governance on the basis that it infringes the legislative and executive arms of the council. With the greatest of respect, there is no such separation within a local government, and in particular within a council. There is a role that the council plays, and that is to bring motions and to assume that there ought to be considered separation of powers is not the way within which good governance ought to be considered. Good governance does, as Councillor Raison raised, look at the strategic direction and the strategic plans and the documents and adopts the appropriate approach. And as consistent with that, we have a number of strategic plans and a number of strategic documents that would look at encouraging volunteering within our community. And that's an excellent approach. Now, when it was put forward for adoption, it was said that it would create greater clarity, and that is greater clarity of the expectation of volunteers over against workers. And with the greatest of respect, nothing has put that in issue for the reason for why the motion was adopted in the first place. If at a future point in time a bundle of documents is put together so that volunteers are clear as to not only their expectations, the induction and other things. The council is able to recommend amendments to those documents. It is able to do that as a council. That doesn't infringe clause 19 of the Code of Conduct regulations in respect of the roles that we play, not at all. When we work together as a council, we are able to bring motions, and that doesn't mean that the CEO has some sort of separation of powers separate from the council. He has his separate duties and functions, which is contained within the provisions of the Local Government Act itself. I think it's section 2.7, might stand to be corrected, but nevertheless, it's set out within the Local Government Act. We are not breaching anything in terms of good governance. In fact, it's the expression of good governance to ensure that the legislative instruments or the instruments that we apply are consistent. Simply because the Work Health and Safety Act provides for volunteers as well, does not thereby invalidate a separate code of conduct setting out the expectations of the members who do present within our community, as well as set out the what we do for them, insurance, induction, to wade through a thick document as it presently is drafted, which might be appropriate for workers or people employed in the council, but it's not wording at the present time, in my view, that is appropriate for volunteers. This is one step on the journey of getting a clear set of documents together for the volunteers within our community. There is gaps, with the greatest of respect to Councillor Brenda Brandis. There is nothing presently expressed within the document in respect of insurance or reporting requirements, and that can be improved. Now, you made, Councillor Brenda Brandis, a point of equality. Now, equal treatment is not the same treatment. In fact, equal treatment can result in discrimination. Volunteers are of a different category and a different nature, and the same treatment as employees is, in my view, as was stated when the motion was originally introduced, can lead to confusion amongst those volunteers who are very important within our community. It can lead to inappropriate expectations, and it does not enable the council to separately set a direction for a code of conduct. Now, you refer to the police department, the health department as examples, and the education department. With the greatest of respect, many of them do not actually employ or have a large number of volunteers working within them. The Department of Sport and Recreation does, and it has a separate code of conduct, and I think the Department of Environment does as well. So what we are looking at is having an arrangement that makes clear and sets out in a separate document a volunteers' code of conduct that the volunteers can go to. We can expand on it, we can make it better. This is not just simply being convinced as to why the motion was put forward in the first place.
30 seconds, Councillor Howling.
This is not repetition. This is a step along the journey of developing what I consider to be best governance practice and best management practice, and that is to have a separate handbook for our volunteers, the backbone of our community, and it is about the backbone of our community and supporting the volunteers who are very important so that they know the expectations that we have of them and they know...
That's time, Councillor Howling. All right, folks, I'm putting the item before us to the vote. Please cast your votes. All right, the votes are in. The motion has failed, 3 votes to 4. Those who voted in favour were Councillor Howling, Councillor Prendeville and Councillor Razon. Those who voted against were Councillor Brenda Brandis, Councillor Lees, myself, Mayor Milner, and Councillor Russell. Thank you all. We now move on to item 11, which is applications for a leave of absence. We've received an application from Councillor Bronwyn Moore for the period of 25 November 2025 to 7 February 2026 inclusive. Councillors, does anyone else wish to apply for a leave of absence? Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Actually, I'd like to amend my current application. So it will be from the 1st to the 22nd of February inclusive, 2026.
So just to confirm, that's changing the existing leave application granted previously to the new dates of the 1st of February 2026 to the 22nd of February 2026 inclusive?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any others, councillors? Councillor Prendeville.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 19th of December 2025 to 16th January 2026. Inclusive, please.
So that's the 11th of December 2025 through to the 16th of January 2026 inclusive?
19th of December.
19th, my bad. Glad I checked. Any other leave of absence applications, councillors? Councillor Raison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I can apply for a leave of absence, please, from 1st of December through to the 10th of December.
So that's the 1st of December through to the 10th of December inclusive?
Correct, thank you.
All right, great. Any other applications, councillors? No. Okay. In that case, I'll call in a moment for a mover and a seconder to move a motion that the leave of absence applications received from 1. Councillor Bronwyn Moore for the period of 25 November 2025 to 7 February 2026 inclusive. 2. From Councillor Stephen Russell for the period of 1 February 2026 to 22 February 2026 inclusive. 3. From Councillor Hayley Prendeville for the period of 11 December 2025 to 19 January 2026. No, I got that wrong. 19th of December. My bad. So 19th of December through to the what in January? The 16th. Sorry, I made the wrong correction. So 3. From Councillor Hayley Prendeville for the period of the 19th of December 2025 through to the 16th of January 2026 inclusive. Yep. And 4. From Councillor Jacqueline Raison for the period of 1 December 2025 to 10 December 2025 inclusive be granted. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Someone a second. Councillor Russell, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No. Okay. Then all of those have been carried unanimously. We move on to item 12, which is motions of which previous notice has been given. That's nil. That brings us to item 13, questions from members. Item 13.1 is responses to previous questions from members taken on notice. That's nil. Item 13.2 is questions from members. I saw Councillor Howling's hand go up. Councillor Howling, we're all ears for your questions.
Yes, thank you. Questions that some notice has been given, and I was aware that we would have a short agenda, so I have a number of questions. I'd firstly like to raise the question related to the Lake Douglas Bridge. The initial concerns in respect to the closure of the bridge unfolded in 2023 and early 2024. The bridges were closed off and on for nearly a year prior to February 2024 due to safety concerns causing upset amongst residents, visitors and wildlife volunteers. Then in February 2023, the City announced that it had engaged external engineers to provide a condition assessment report which recommended repair maintenance. March 23, then there was some minor works, structurally compromised in November 23 and recognised that it needed to be remaining closed for the public. Then there was an electors meeting on the 26th of March 24, which raised, at least at that electors meeting, the requirement of the request to prioritise, and a motion passed to prioritise the bridge for the 24-25 financial year. In February 24, Mary Choi raised a notice of motion in respect to the bridges.
Councillor Howling, I do have to jump in here because I do have to be fair to everyone. Our standing orders do say that questions have to be brief and concise and are not to be accompanied by argument, expression of opinion or statement of facts, except to the extent necessary to explain the question. So I might get you to jump to the question part.
Yeah, and can I assure you that it's a statement of facts setting out the background to the question. This was again discussed at a budget workshop and...
No, Councillor Howling, please proceed to the question.
And then the question is this. The bridge remains closed and is a substantial inconvenience to residents. And in light of this, I'd like to know what background is made in respect of costing of a replacement bridge as an important piece of infrastructure interconnecting the bridges, and whether or not this still has the attention of the administration.
Thank you for the question. Ms Ampremo, is that one? No, Mr Scott, my apologies.
Through the chair, currently there is no budget allocation for the replacement of the second Lake Douglas Bridge.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Second question, Councillor Howling.
Yes, my second part of that question was, and does it have the attention of the administration?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, that will be subject to budget considerations at budget deliberations for the next financial year.
Further question, Councillor Howling.
Yes, thank you. I note that there are quite a number of motions which are implemented and a document which sets it out. But how does the CEO prioritise the recommendation or the motions that are passed at meetings and the subsequent outcome of those meetings to ensure that they're properly implemented in a timely way?
Mr Scott.
There's a statutory requirement under section 5.41 of the Local Government Act for the CEO to implement council decisions. Implementation is based on, in essence, the following three factors: resources available, external factors such as government agencies, and other council priorities. A council status report is kept, which captures all resolutions resolved by the council at the ordinary council and special council meetings. A copy is publicly available on the City of South Perth website.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling, another question?
Thank you. And subsequent to that, does the CEO then report the outcomes to a subsequent council meeting at any stage, or is it only included on that document on the website?
Mr Scott.
My understanding, there is no requirement for the CEO to report directly to council. However, given that it is on a status report available on the town's website, it's publicly available, and councillors are obviously welcome to ask any questions about any outstanding resolution.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, it relates to policies. How does the council administration prioritise the updates of policies when the policy framework should be considered for updating in light of a number of changes to state policies?
Mr Scott.
It is assumed that this question relates to state planning policies. The City receives notification from the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage where updates to state planning policies are proposed, and the City reviews its local planning policies and undertakes reviews if required. The City otherwise regularly reviews its local planning policies in light of emerging planning issues and decisions. Part 9 of the Planning and Development Amendment Act 2023 will introduce improved processes for the review of state and local planning instruments by inserting a new Part 9A into the Planning and Development Act 2005. This new part requires the preparation of regulations which will likely include modification provisions for the review of local planning framework, including for local planning policies. The proposal from the state government is such that local planning policies will have a maximum of a 5-year lifespan.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Activity Centre Plan 2011 in respect of the South Perth train station refers to the plan's associated planning framework required to reshape a more robust planning framework. And that is, as I understand, in and around the train station precinct. And that South Perth Activity Centre Plan was to be reviewed and updated over time. Can you inform us what action may have been taken and when this may be anticipated for completion?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, the South Perth Activity Centre Plan was approved by the WAPC on the 21st of December 2021. An approved structure plan is valid for 10 years from the date of approval, unless otherwise specified in the approval or in another period determined by the WAPC, and is valid until 2031.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, thank you. Your planning framework strategy, or the planning strategy of 2021, stated that the city must prepare and adopt an integrated transport plan to unify local and regional transport objectives and address how emerging transport technologies can be adopted. This was at the time identified as having a medium priority. What has been done since 2021 to undertake the work, and when is it expected to be completed?
Mr. Scott.
The Integrated Transport Plan 2021 to 2031 was adopted by Council at its 28th September 2021 Ordinary Council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Councillor Howling, another question?
Yes, and I take it that are you able to inform us what steps have been taken to implement that plan?
I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. I do have a further question. Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Mayor. In 2021, it was identified that the city had limited planning strategies to address environmental sustainability, and an action is to develop a waste management local planning policy that reflects the principles of adopted waste management resource management plan. This also had a medium priority. Can you inform us, Mr. CEO, what has been done to develop that policy, and when may that be expected to be completed?
Mr. Scott.
Yes, through the Chair, yes, Local Planning Policy 3.1 Waste Management was adopted by Council at its 27th February 2025 Ordinary Council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, and the waste management, the adopted waste management resources plan, was that also adopted at the same time?
Mr. Scott?
Through the Chair, I'll take that on notice.
Another question, Councillor Howling?
Thank you. I'm trying to understand, in 2021, the planning strategy of the city was obviously adopted, and the city's current planning framework, obviously has limited requirements relating to the design of buildings. It was noted that the current framework has limited requirements relating to the design of buildings, crime prevention through environmental design and management of urban stormwater, which needs to be addressed in the planning framework. How has this been implemented, and what has been done to address this, and what further work is being undertaken by the city to address this objective?
Mr. Scott?
Though the specific quote was not an action in the local planning strategy, the city has prepared and Council has adopted the following local planning policies which address matters such as building design and passive surveillance consistent with crime prevention through environmental design. 1. Local Planning Policy 1.1 Residential Development. Local Planning Policy 2.1 Non-Residential Development in the Residential Zone. Local Planning Policy 2.2 Non-Residential and Mixed-Use Development. The residential design codes are also to be read as part of the Local Planning Scheme number 7, and residential design codes include criteria related to stormwater management and water management and conservation.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Was there anything adopted in respect of environmental design or relating to crime?
I have to take that on notice.
Thank you.
Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, the strategy, that is the local planning strategy, requires a review to be republished in 2026. Has any steps already been taken to engage in this process?
Mr. Scott?
Local Planning Scheme number 7 was gazetted on the 27th of March 2024 with a 5-yearly review due in 2029, along with the local planning strategy. The city has been progressing the actions in the local planning strategy, such as the creation of local planning policies, and can continue to present scheme amendments to Council when required.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, the local planning strategy was adopted in 2021 and is required to be undertaken by way of a review every 5 years. Why was that extended when the local planning scheme was adopted?
Mr. Scott?
Through the Chair, I may refer the final answer to the relevant director, but my understanding is the planning strategy has to be reviewed when a local planning scheme is developed and approved, and therefore it then is captured within the 5-year review process of the local planning scheme. Is Ms. Short?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so the local planning scheme itself is required to be reviewed every 5 years. The Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage has a local planning strategy guidelines which recommends that reviews of the local planning strategy occur with the reviews of the local planning scheme.
Thank you, Director Shaw. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, thank you. And just so that I'm absolutely clear, is what you're saying that the regulations requiring 5 yearly reviews of local planning strategies is reset at the time when a new planning scheme is adopted? Is that your position?
I'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you, Mr Scott.
Thank you.
Another question, Councillor Howling?
I mean, because otherwise the position is that we're getting out of date.
Councillor Howling, quick question. Item 13 is not for debating with the administration, but
Right.
you can ask questions.
Thank you. The Canning Bridge Activity Centre Plan sets out that the CBACP, that's the Canning Bridge Activity Centre Plan, should be reviewed in conjunction with the City of Melville in intervals no more than 5 years apart. That was adopted in March of 2015 and approved by the WAPC in April of 2016. Has this been reviewed together with the City of Melville, and what's anticipated to be presented to the Council if that is going to be undertaken by way of a review?
Mr Scott?
At the 22nd of October 2024 Ordinary Council meeting, Council resolved to request the Chief Executive Officer to apply to the West Australian Planning Commission to obtain an extension to the period of approval of the CBACP for a period of 10 years. The City is awaiting confirmation of that extension. Advice was provided to elected members in the 3rd of October 2025 Councillor Bulletin.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Thank you. The South Perth Activity Centre Plan, developed in 2019, adopted no doubt by the Council, by the WAPC after that period, had an interim period of 5 years to assess the short-term performance and recommended any necessary refinements, in particular in respect of the funds that were being collected and that were to be spent against the key performance indicators within that plan. And that's set out in Appendix 1 of that particular plan. What has been delivered out of that and what is still awaiting completion? And in particular, I note that a number of the key milestones was on Civic Heart being completed.
Mr Scott?
Through the Chair, no items have been delivered or completed as per the advice provided to Council in a report to Council on the 10th of December 2024 Ordinary Council meeting. A further report will be provided to Council at the December 2025 Ordinary Council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes, thank you. And I note that there is also a requirement for a 5-yearly review of the CBCF. Where are we up to in respect of such a review, and has it been commenced?
Mr Scott?
Through the Chair, I have to take that on notice.
Thank you.
Another question, Councillor Howling?
Yes. What progress on redesign of areas in and around the Esplanade have been made between the Narrows and Main Street to address problems reported regularly by the residents there of Hooning?
Mr Scott?
Other than raised platforms that were installed at the intersections of Mill Point Road and Mill Point Close and South Perth Esplanade and Main Street, there is no council resolution including budget allocations in relation to a design response on South Perth Esplanade.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Another question, Councillor Howling?
Thank you. There was intended to be a parking strategy review. Has there been any further consideration given to a parking strategy review for South Perth?
Mr Scott?
Through the Chair, the City will take this question on notice.
Any further questions, Councillor Howling?
Yes, thank you. The congestion associated with Mill Point Road and a number of other access ways, has council given consideration to the difficulties created by single access points onto the freeway and any alternate entry or exit solutions?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, no. The freeway access points are controlled by Main Roads WA, not the city.
Any further questions, Councillor Howling?
Yes, thank you. Has there been any, and of course I understand that and appreciate that, but has there been any advocacy work done in respect of that, that is, the access points onto and off the freeway?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, I'll take that on notice.
And councillors, just a gentle reminder that that councillors are free to seek answers to questions offline. Not all questions need to be asked at item 13. Any further questions, Councillor Howling?
Yes. Now, there was to be a Peninsula Traffic and Safety Review undertaken in 2024. When would it be expected that that would be completed and presented?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, on review by the city of the consultant's traffic modelling identified that further work on the modelling was required. An update report and a presentation to council was extended to be presented to council early mid 2026.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling, further question?
Yes. That consultant's report that you say has been now undertaken, what principally did it identify?
Mr Scott.
I'll take that on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Howling, how many more questions do you have?
But another 5.
Please proceed.
These have been provided in writing in advance. I wish to put them on record. The question that I have is in respect of the Coode Street foreshore concept plans. In relation to those concept plans, is there expected to be a briefing of the councillors, and when would that be?
Mr Scott.
The concept plans have been developed and were presented to council at a workshop on the 1st of July 2025. The presentation is available on the elected members, available to elected members on the hub.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling.
Thank you. Is there an expected timeline for the river wall replacement to be completed and the beach creation to be also completed at Coode Street?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, it is programmed to be constructed between autumn 2026 and 30th of June 2028.
And sorry?
30th of June 2028.
Councillor Howling.
Sorry, it's going to be constructed over the 2-year period.
Through the chair, it is programmed to be constructed between autumn 2026 and the 30th of June 2028.
Thank you. Do you know, is there regional playground works within that schedule, and what is that expenditure to date?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, the design work is on schedule and expenditure to date is $11,000.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling.
Has the administration located any past Angelo Street concept plans? And if not, is there any work that is underway to develop a new set of plans in respect to the activation of the Angelo Street, and at what stage are they at?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, as per the budget discussions, the city will review the information available in the second half of the financial year. There is no current council resolution or budget to develop a new set of plans.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling.
Thank you. In April 24, Councillor Choi raised the Angelo Street crosswalk. This was again dealt with and reported on a number of occasions up until November 2024, at which it was last brought to council. When was the letter sent to Main Roads in respect of that crosswalk, which was identified by Councillor Choi as dangerous?
Mr Scott.
Through the chair, I understand an initial request was emailed on the 4th of April 2024 with several further emails between the City and Main Roads WA to reach agreement on the design of the final plan submitted on the 22nd of August 2025. A copy of the final request can be provided.
Thank you, Mr Scott.
Thank you, if I can. What is the current progress in respect of the adoption of a change to that crosswalk?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, preliminary approval has been granted by Main Roads WA. The lighting design is complete. The engineering services is currently liaising with tenants and building management regarding landscaping and alfresco modifications.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling, I'm pretty sure you said 5, and I think that was 5. Do you have any further questions?
Yes, just a few. Some of them were grouped up, Mr Mayor. So whereas it was 5, there was A, B and C. Lastly, in respect of the progress of that crosswalk, when was the date of the first preliminary review and works undertaken by engineering services?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, I'll take that on notice.
Councillor Howling.
Thank you. Is there any steps being undertaken in respect of Preston Street precinct for review for its activation?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, following an EOI process, Como Town Team were awarded community funding for the facilitation of the Como Country Fair in 2026. This event may be held at the Preston Street or nearby Como Reserve.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling.
Thank you. The Como Reserve gated park is appreciated by the residents, but most local governments with dog parks have put in double gates. Was this an oversight that it wasn't put in place, that the double gates weren't installed to prevent dogs escaping and the like?
Mr Scott.
No, this was not an oversight. Council consider a budget allocation for double gates during the 26-27 budget deliberations.
Sorry, Council will consider?
Council can consider.
Thank you, Mr Scott. Councillor Howling.
Thank you. You'll note this is the last question. On the OCM, that's the Ordinary Council meeting of the 24th of September, it was decided not to proceed with a grant of option in respect of the Wasps Hockey Centre at Collier Reserve, and the CEO was to work with Wesley South Perth Hockey Club and Hockey WA to provide a home for the Australian High Performance Hockey Centre. What work has been undertaken by the CEO since that date?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, the City will take that on notice.
Thank you. That's the only question.
All right. Councillors, any further questions for the administration this evening? Councillor Russell, I think, was first, then Councillor Raison.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. My questions relate to the $60,000 provided to the City to administer on behalf of Mr Jeff Baker, MLA, for local community group-inspired environmental projects. So 1, could the City advise the term of the funding? For example, is it over the term of Jeff Baker's term, or is it indefinite until the funding is exhausted?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, the City will have to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, could the City please advise the process of how the proposed projects are ranked and selected, and is Mr Jeff Baker involved in that process?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, unfortunately, I have to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you. I understand. 3, is there a funding cap per proposed project and or cap per community group?
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, unfortunately, again, I would have to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you. 4, if there are surplus funds at the end of the term or agreement to wind up the project or the program, how are the funds disposed of? Are they, for example, returned to the state government, or do they just go back into municipal?
Through the Chair, I will have to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Raison, I saw your hand go up there.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just 2 questions. First one is in relation to whether the City has ever looked into a crosswalk being provided at the intersection of South Perth Esplanade and Men Street, where people are coming on and off the ferry and heading to the zoo.
Mr Scott.
Through the Chair, unfortunately, I'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you. And then finally, this is in relation to city events and installations. Recently, I've attended the Como Country Fair, Sir Optimus Spring Fair, Wazo event in the Civic Centre, Lanterns of Terracotta Warriors, just to name a few. And what I've found after I've been to all of those events is a number of people weren't aware of them. And I'm starting to think about next year and how we can engage the community more. The question is whether it's possible by the end of this year or a calendar year to have a calendar of events and installations available for people that may, opt into being mailed out for them to plan the year ahead.
Mr. Scott.
Through the chair, unfortunately, I have to take that on notice because I'd need to refer back to certain members of the communications team to understand our processes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Councillors, any further questions for the City Administration this evening? I've just got one, and I think it's to Mr. Scott. I'm just keen to know the status of the Challenger Reserve Master Plan.
Through the chair, there is a proposed briefing on that next Tuesday for councillors.
Thank you. No further questions, councillors? No. Okay. In that case, we move on to item 14, which is new business of an urgent nature, introduced by decision of the meeting. That's nil for this evening. Item 15 is when we would ordinarily close the meeting to the public if there was any reason for us to do so, but there's not, so we won't. And item 16 is closure. So before I close tonight's meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation. I declare the meeting closed at 7:26 p.m. Thank you all and good night.